The first video I made for the Turbografx launch did higher numbers than anything I've made for YouTube in over 15 years of being here, so please enjoy my rebranding to cover all Turbografx all the time. Call me the Turbografx Kid. So listen up, all you radical dudes and dudettes. Today we're going to talk about the Turbografx. Seriously, that video is at almost 10,000 views as of this recording, and I've never had something I made blow up like that so quickly, so thank you all, I really appreciate you. Anyway, let's get you some fresh Turbo content to consume. November 1989 saw NEC's Turbografx-16 console starting to gain a wider release in North America, and with that larger launch push came 5 more games for us to consider when we got our hands on the system. Well, when you guys got your hands on the system. Like I've said, I'd never touched one. This is a series of discovery as I'm playing all these games for the very first time. Now, as we learned last time, the Turbografx-16 is the higher energy video game system, and nothing suggests higher energy more than a game called Blazing Lazers. Blazing Lazers is a vertical shooter based on the live-action Japanese film Gunhead, which is what the game was titled in Japan. Kinda surprised the enemies in Keith Courage weren't called gunheads, but I digress. Blazing Lazers has virtually all references to that film removed, except for the manual, which makes constant references to Gunhead. What's presented on screen, though, gives essentially no indication of any story, Gunhead or otherwise, as you're shown a gross-looking ship, which you assume to be the bad guys, and then you show up and you're clearly the good guys, so go shoot the bad guys. The game features everything you might expect. Crazy boss battles like the one against this thing called the Triclops. Lots of weapon variety and power-ups, and of course, insane difficulty, although the first 2 areas are rather manageable before Area 3 just goes completely nuts. You can even control the speed of your ship by pressing select over the course of the game. This is a totally fine shoot 'em up, and honestly my only beef with the game is some of the audio. Well, and that people everywhere have praised the audio. Now, I've read historical reviews, I've read contemporary reviews, and I've watched countless gameplay sessions of this, and no one seems to mention what I'm hearing, which is how the audio just turns to garbage in certain circumstances. It just doesn't sound right, and at first I thought there was something wrong with the file that I have. Then I thought maybe the emulator was the culprit. Nope. So I checked the Turbografx Mini version. Still bad. Watched other people play it over the course of 15 years, and no, it's garbled awfulness no matter how or when it was played. You can also kinda hear it in the promo video too.
Multi-body. You're at the helm of radical firepower, a gunhead laser gunship, and in the fight of your life with the ultimate outer space shoot 'em up, Blazing Lazers.
It's a weird thing, I don't get it. Maybe it just sounds wrong to me? Maybe I'm the weird thing? My ears tell me certain sound effects are overmodulated, which causes the audio to turn to static. I can't be the only one hearing that. I mean, kudos if that was by design, I guess, because you did it. Mission accomplished. It's a little reminiscent of the distortion you hear in Sinistar, but still, I just think something wasn't coded right. Conversely, I think the music is good here, which is another highly praised part of the audio, but I was expecting more? I kept waiting for a hot banger to kick off, and what I would get instead just made me think, yeah, this works, this is okay. So, do you want to play Blazing Lazers right now that I've sold you on this totally extreme shooter? Your only option is to track down a Turbografx mini console. Previously, it had been released on the virtual consoles of both the Wii and the Wii U, but both of those are closed now. Another highly praised Turbo game that is essentially nowhere. I just don't get it.
Compare it to Nintendo's Kung Fu. Can you spot the difference? Turbografx-16 has 16-bit graphics that make characters up to 32 times bigger and almost 10 times as many colors. Turbo action, turbo sound, Turbografx-16, the higher energy video game system.
Now, I don't think a lot of people like this next game called China Warrior, or the Kung Fu in Japan, where it was released 2 years earlier. It's a simplistic left-to-right scrolling beat-em-up, and it auto-scrolls you so you have to keep moving, where you play as a, China Warrior. There's a Dark Emperor, and you don't much like that, so you're out to take him down. In comparison to a couple of similar games from the era, I think that Karateka is more compelling, and that Kung Fu is more engaging and fun, but I also believe that China Warrior has its place. Once you get past the whole "look how big your dude is" thing, there's genuine entertainment to be derived from this, of both the good and bad variety. I mean, you're getting to murder fools with Kung Fu. That's good! I like the way your guy bursts through the start screen and into the first moment of the game when you hit run. That's pretty good too! And how your character's face will go from stoic to all outraged never ceased to delight me as I progressed through the game. Sometimes though, what you're battling against seems super silly. Touch a guy who is walking towards you, lose 1 health bar. Get punched in the face, lose 1 health bar. Someone throws a twig at you from off screen that grazes your knee, lose 1 health bar. But then you can just punch a fireball out of the sky and get rewarded with points. It's kinda nonsense in that regard, the stick thing especially. And there was one point in the 3rd stage, I think, where if you miss the first hit in a series of incoming attacks, you're going to get pummeled like you wouldn't believe. It's really comical. Oh, no. What the? Stop it. Jesus. Just stop it. There won't be much replay value here, as the levels are always the same without any deviation in enemy type or behavior. Once you figure out where everything is, you'll be fine as long as you're able to line up your hits correctly. But I enjoyed playing through it, and I think you should give it a try too. And where should you do that? Well, the story of China Warrior is the exact same as Blazing Lasers. It was released on both the Wii and the Wii U, which you can no longer buy, so your only option is the Turbografx mini console. And just note that the version on that unit is the PC Engine version from Japan. It's still totally playable, but if you're going for the authentic North American launch experience, you need to look elsewhere.
Navigate your Nectarian cruiser against the evil Bido Empire. Only the most skilled marksman will survive the arcade hit R-Type.
Now, what do you say about R-Type, which is heralded as one of the greatest horizontal scrolling shooters of all time? Well, you can confirm that that is indeed the case, as I did with my first ever playthrough. Sometimes you get a game in your hands and you think everything about this is working exactly as it should. And by that I mean not just that it's a functional product, but that every aspect of the game is firing on all cylinders. The movement feels good, the weapons are great, the music is awesome, power-ups make sense. It's just well thought out, really cool to look at, and a blast to play through. In the realm of space shooters, R-Type takes place in a world similar to many other games in the genre, which is future machinery mixed with icky alien stuff. You'll be flying through lots of areas that look like test tubes filled with meat, and have boss battles with squishy evil brains. Oh, I hate this. I fucking hate this. Jesus. Holy God. Blazing Lasers is the same in this regard. Now, of course, I've played a version of R-Type before, most likely IREM's original arcade game, or one of the many sequels over the last 30 years. I can't quite narrow it down any further than that. It could have been on the PS1 or on the Game Boy. I just know I've never played it here on the Turbografx. And this seems like a really great version of the game. Colorful, bright, sharp. It's a terrific shooter. I can confirm it to be one of the all-time best from the era. Yeah. Eat shit. Whatever you are, weird heart vagina. They weren't kidding, man. This system is extreme. You gotta blow up heart vaginas. There are tons of ways to play some version of R-Type, but if you want to play the Turbo version specifically, again, the Turbografx Mini is your only option. And hell, I'm kinda surprised it's even on there, to be honest. If you have an archivist mindset, as I do, the mini console is looking better and better to be sure you have easy access to all these great Turbografx games. And since we've now got 2 shoot-em-ups released for the system in the same month, I'll go ahead and compare the two by saying R-Type is the clear winner. Now, that's no attack on Blazing Lasers, mind you. that's still a fine game, it's just, come on, this is R-Type we're talking about here. Like Blazing Lasers, you get all the staples of the genre, weapons, power-ups, boss battles, difficulty, etc. All of it just feels better here. Again, no slight against Blazing Lasers. Play them both.
Rescue your girlfriend from the thugs who stalk the streets of Manhattan in the arcade hit Vigilante.
And then there's Vigilante, which, like R-Type, is a port of an IREM arcade game. And let me just take a moment here to say that IREM is highly underrated as a video game company. They've released some all-time greats, but where are all the IREM stands? Moon Patrol, R-Type, Kung Fu Master, they just don't get the acclaim they deserve these days. Anyway, Vigilante isn't necessarily one of their all-time greats, but it's a solid side-scrolling beat-em-up where skinheads kidnap Madonna and you have to go rescue her from their leader, Giant Devil, a tale as old as time. Okay, so it's not the actual Madonna, it's just your girlfriend who is also named Madonna. You traverse the seedy parts of New York City to kick skinhead asses, most of whom have hair, so how they got into this gang I'll never understand. But still, eat shit, skinheads. I can do this all day. Don't even get me started on how disappointed I am in this gentleman who shows up in the junkyard stage. I mean, sir, they're skinheads. Again, this is another solid port of an arcade game and is the most accurate version of all the ports released at the time. But wow, does this ever feel like something that was designed to eat your quarters via your TurboGrafx. It was always hard to figure out how to get games like this to be viable on home consoles, and in the case of this port of Vigilante, the solution was to have you pretty much lose all your health after 3 or 4 hits, even though you've got a pretty long health bar. Oh, god damn it. That took all my health. Motherfucker hit me with a stick, took all my health. Shit. To make matters worse, there's a fairly common enemy in each stage who straight up has a gun. After a couple of bullets, you're understandably deceased. Part of me wants to say, well, this isn't fun. But also, I totally understand what they have to do here so that you don't beat your brand new video game in less than 2 hours. Also a pain are the Bruce Vilanch looking dudes who hit you with their motorcycles when you're trying to cross the bridge at the start of the 3rd stage. Now, I realize that a Bruce Vilanch reference is a tough sell here in the old 2023, but please understand that my first instinct was to say this looked like William Gaines, the publisher of Mad Magazine, and so enjoy really not knowing what I'm talking about and having to go look all of that up on your Wikipedias. You damn kids. Since we've also got 2 beat-em-ups in this batch, I'll do another comparison, and yes, Vigilante is better than China Warrior. Neither are great, but both are totally fine, and Vigilante is just a little tighter overall in everything it's doing. If you want to play either the arcade or the turbo version of Vigilante at this point, your only choice is emulation. It's remarkable that they are nowhere. The turbo version was on the Wii and the Wii U Virtual Consoles, but yeah, you're gonna have to take matters into your own hands here. Now let's talk about Dungeon Explorer for a second.
Delve deep in the caverns of Odessia in Dungeon Explorer. Your quest, the Aura Stone of Everlasting Life. Your risk, a sudden underworld death.
Yes, this was a game that also came out in November 1989, but I'm going to skip past it for now. Not for any nefarious reasons, mind you, calm down. It's just that this appears to be one of the more in-depth games in the launch window, and as such, I want to spend more than my usual evaluation time with it. Everything else to this point has been a very arcade-style game, and this seems to have a lot more going on, so I'm going to give it the time it'll deserve. So look for that in a separate video sometime in the very near future. So including Dungeon Explorer, that brings the initial launch lineup for the Turbografx up to 9 games. And of the 4 reviewed here today, here's which ones I think you should look for. Yep, all 4 of them. They're presented here in the order that I think is best to least best, but I still recommend at least one playthrough of all 4 games here. I think all 4 have merit and have no doubt you would enjoy playing around with them. And if you're like me and can't afford to start a physical Turbografx collection thanks to the outrageous used game market, 3 of them are available on the Turbo Mini, which is starting to look like a very strong investment for retro gamers, especially for those of us new to and curious about this console. So there you go, we got a very strong lineup of launch launch games now, with 6 of the 8 that I've played for the first time getting a recommendation. And to circle back to the previous video for a second, I've been doing a lot of thinking about the Legendary Axe since that review went live, and I kinda still want to play more Legendary Axe, so I'm bumping that up to a recommended status as well. Now, it's not because everyone gave me such a hard time in the comments about not thinking that highly of it, but I've just been finding myself thinking about it still, and I feel like when that happens, there's gotta be something to it. So yeah, I am retroactively recommending it. The Turbografx-16 launch isn't over yet though, as December 1989 will see even more games released as part of the official launch, as well as a radical new peripheral never before seen on a video game console. We'll talk more about that next time though. So until then, let's play some games.